my God, everyone! The ghetto! Look out! The reason I'm acting like that's because right now I'm in the worst place to live in Utah. If you ask people and you look around online a lot, you'll see stories and rankings and first-hand accounts from people saying that parts of Salt Lake City's metro area are bad, bad, bad. And then up in Idaho, you have people saying parts of Pocatello are bad. Both of these areas are heavy Mormon strongholds. So if you want to see real Mormon ghettos up and close, this is probably your only chance to do so. Nobody else is going to venture in here and risk their lives showing you mediocre blocks. These are real Mormon hoods coming to you in your living room right now. We're at a gas station in the Utah hood. It's on the edge of South Salt Lake, one of the most notoriously dangerous hoods in the state of Utah. If this was a gas station in Philly or Houston or Phoenix, you might have to watch your back. There'd be lowlives in groups and probably people with drugs. You might even hear about gunshots every now and then. But this seems pretty tame, doesn't it? You could probably even get gas in here after dark and not even get jacked. If you watch my channel long enough, you'd know that I like to push the limits. Some would say it's borderline reckless the way I get deep into the real dreadful parts of our cities. So you can imagine my reaction when I went into these Mormon hoods. It is what it is, I guess. In this video, I'm going to venture into 5 of these Mormon slums. But we're going to start in West Valley City. It's just outside of Salt Lake. Everybody says West Valley City is rough. So let's find out what all the hype is all about. Now, I usually venture into these places early in the morning before all the troublemakers get up. But come on now, I think I can hold my own in here in the middle of the day. Here in West Valley City, I think they'd understand my lack of prudence. Here's what West Valley looks like. My first impression is, this isn't so bad. I think that's because Mormons aren't as poor as the general population. And by the way, the Jewish community is the likeliest to earn a lot of money, and Jehovah's Witnesses are the most likely to be poor. Mormons are slightly above average income-wise. So maybe that's one reason why their hoods aren't as visually abhorrent. Crime here is about average compared to the rest of the country. Any way you slice the data, it's more dangerous here than most of Utah, but far below what a real hood would have. But there were 5 murders here last year, which is more than I thought there'd be. That's about half the U.S. average per capita. Your overall chance of having your car stolen or your home broken into is about 1 in 33. That's pretty high. Maybe this will put things into perspective. Based on last year's stats, West Valley City has a murder rate that's 10 times lower than Memphis and a robbery rate that's only half. Make what you want to of those numbers, but that's a lot higher than I thought it would be. I mean, based on this is Utah and all, and it doesn't feel dangerous driving around in the middle of the day, and it doesn't look bad. I think part of the reason people around here hate on this place is because it's a blue-collar kind of area, and it's 1/3 Hispanic. People smell Mexican food, and they hear not English spoke at the So Delicious, and they make assumptions. Just saying. And what about the house prices? These are all $300,000 and $400,000 homes. I know, right? This is Utah, and it's the fastest growing state in the country, and there's a housing shortage here. Where else are you going to expect to pay $400,000 for a house in the Mormon hood than right here? Now we're going to venture into another Mormon hood, South Salt Lake. It's a little city of 23,000 people in a kinda industrial area with some cheaper homes. I also crept around here in the middle of the day, not heeding the warnings of the internet. I know, I'm no stranger to danger. Just about 2/3 of Utah's Mormon, making this the most Mormon-y place in the country. Here in the greater Salt Lake City area, it's closer to 3/4 of the population, though. And all over in these Mormon hoods, there's LDS churches, just like in the nice neighborhoods. I mean, you can't not preach to the poor people too, right? Here's an LDS church in one of these hoods. Looks just like a regular church, doesn't it? There's no gate around it. There's no bars on the windows. Good for them, standing their ground and all, not backing down in the face of danger. Here in South Salt Lake, you'd have about a 1 in 100 chance of being attacked or killed, and a 1 in 14 chance of being robbed. That's actually really high. Look at this. The most latest, most dangerous cities in the country, and this place is in the top 100 now, up there with Daytona Beach and Farmington, New Mexico, which are both kind of sketch. And you probably didn't know that. I think a lot of that's because there's a lot of shopping and retail in the area. But man, Mormon mob, you guys are hardcore. I think if you stayed out of the bad neighborhoods and just minded your own business, you'd be okay here, though. I hear there's a bar in this part of town where they take your knives away from you at the door. What? Come on now. They don't even have that in some of the hoods I grew up in. They also say there's gangs in Salt Lake City now. Like real ones. No, I'm not kidding. Look, they say there's maybe 30 to 40 different gangs here in Salt Lake. And possibly 4,000 or 5,000 gangbangers that have moved in. There's even 11-year-old gangsters in Salt Lake City. What is happening here? Is there nowhere safe anymore? Gonna get stung by a ladybug in Utah, I tell ya.
I think I could even run the streets here. Bitch better give me my money.
Mappy, are you serious right now? You think you're all big and bad because you're in a JV hood? I don't see you front like this when we're in a real hood.
Maybe I can protect the Mormons from all the bad guys. I bet they would pay me.
Mappy, why don't you just do it? Because it's a nice thing to do. Anyways, we should probably get out of here before night sets in. Another area I checked for dodgy was a neighborhood in Salt Lake City that everybody says is rough. A place called Poplar Grove. It's a little neighborhood kind of on the northwest part of town. Now, supposedly this pocket of Salt Lake City has way more crime than most of the other neighborhoods. I mean, look at this. One website gives this pocket of Salt Lake City a big old fat F. 4 times higher than the national average? What? Well, this same site says Baltimore is only a little bit higher than the national average, so either these sites are BS or where I am right now is really super dangerous, at least on a per capita basis. What do you guys think? Am I risking my life here right now, or are these internet sites wrong? Are Mormon hoods way tougher than we think? I mean, I don't think Mormons knock on doors in places like this. Or do they? Are the missionaries at risk? Should we be worried about their safety? To me, all of this just looks like an area where teachers and social workers and cops and other lower paid people live. Just looks like a lot of people trying to make ends meet. I can say that this would be the nice part of town in my home city of San Bernardino. The Mormons should be grateful that this is their bad. The final stop in Utah's Mormon hoods is way down in Provo. It's about 30 minutes south of downtown Salt Lake. Now, this area is totally Mormon. Some of the other hoods we saw were kinda Mormon-y, but Provo is like 90% LDS. Check this out. So I was driving around and I came across an LDS church right next to a trailer park. And so I kind of drove around the trailer park a little bit, and then I came out the other side, and there's another church on the other side of the trailer park. I never would have imagined that. I wonder if the churches pressured the trailer park people to sell so they could merge their churches into one big church in the hood.
What if the day of his coming was tomorrow? If we knew that we would meet the Lord tomorrow, through our premature death or through his unexpected coming, what would we do today?
The area in Provo that people say is the worst is over by the BYU campus, mostly because it's where some of the college students live. So it's just lower income in general. Here's what that looks like. You know, driving around Utah's Mormon hoods, I didn't see a single cop. I didn't see a single burned out house or a drug house or one MLK Drive. And they sure did pick a great spot for their hoods, didn't they? Look at those views, everyone. Now, I think it's fair to say that 1, none of this is really all that bad. And 2, Utah people just have no perspective on inner city life. And I think it's fair to assume that most of these areas will eventually be fixed up or gentrified or whatever, since real estate is so expensive in this part of Utah. And in case you're wondering, there's nothing in here under $400K. Provo is a very expensive place to live overall. So this little rough patch in town is very rare, I tell ya. Don't believe me? Here's what the nice side of Provo looks like. And now one final stop. So I asked a bunch of people I know where the worst place to live in Idaho is, and just about everyone said Pocatello. So I went there too. Pocatello is in eastern Idaho, which has a very high Mormon population. They think 25% of Pocatello is Mormon. Anyways, this is what the hoods of Pocatello look like. Overall, Crime here is just about average for the country, but for the very safe state of Idaho, it's bad. It's mostly drugs and domestic disputes for the most part. Some stolen items pawned off for crack. Nothing too much to worry about if you stay out of those circles. I did come across some pretty run-down trailer parks, though. Some of this looks pretty bad. There's 55,000 people in Pocatello, and the average income levels of $50K are just about on par with the US average. But it's cheap here. Homes here are $320,000 each. That's lower than the national average. They're cheap for now, anyways, until the rest of California finds a place and tries to ruin it like they've tried to ruin other smallish cities in the Mountain West. God, keep them out of here. And finally, for perspective, here's the nice part of town in Pocatello, where people are much higher earners. And this is the Mormon temple on top of their hill. It's surrounded by high earners. I never knew there was a Mormon income hierarchy that was so extreme. But they're just like everyone else, I guess. Now, I didn't grow up in Utah or in Idaho, but I have seen every state in the lower 48, and I've been to almost every bad place in the country, so I have some perspective. So I thought it would be relevant for me to point out the absurdity that any of this would be considered rough. You don't need a gun to protect yourself in here. You won't have bullet holes coming through your kid's bedroom walls in here. And no one's going to jack you for your shoes in here. And I think that's something we can all learn from. Are you looking to move and need advice? I do consulting. That's right. I'll sit down and talk about where the next perfect place for you and your family should be. I do it all the time. Together, let's find you a new home that's safe and checks all your boxes. And I can also help you find your new house, too. Email me and I'll work with you. I'm not just helping you figure out where to move, but I can help you find your perfect home, too. That's right. I know awesome, reliable agents all over the country, and I'd love to connect you to somebody who can help you search for that perfect home. Hey guys, if you learned something new about America or what it's like to live in America, great. You should think about subscribing and turning on your notifications. You can also click one of these videos or playlists for more.
This is Sage, Nick's manager. This has been a Corner House Entertainment production.